The lifeguard barely looked up from his phone when the old man shuffled toward the combat pool. White hair, white beard, that same faded red jacket over a plain t-shirt. The young recruits in their Navy training gear snickered as he stood at the edge, staring down into the 50-meter tactical swimming course. One of them muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Someone's grandfather got lost on the way to the retirement home." Another added, "Hope he doesn't need rescuing. We've got actual training to do." The old man said nothing, just removed his jacket carefully, folded it, and placed it on the bench. His movements were slow, deliberate. The kind of slowness that comes with 70 years of living. If you believe respect should be earned through actions, not words, then stay with this story. He had been coming to this base pool for 3 weeks now. Nobody knew his name. Nobody asked. The facility was technically open to military retirees, but most who used it were young, fit, preparing for specialized warfare training. The combat pool wasn't like regular pools. It simulated ocean conditions, had underwater obstacles, required full tactical gear swimming. It was designed to break even the strongest swimmers. The old man never wore tactical gear, just plain swim trunks that had seen better days. He would lower himself into the water with a grimace, as if his joints protested every movement, and then he would swim, lap after lap after lap. His stroke was strange, old-fashioned, not the efficient techniques they taught now. But he kept going, always alone, always silent, always with that same sad, serious expression. The training instructor that morning was Lieutenant Commander Hayes, 32 years old, decorated, confident. He had been running combat swimming programs for 6 years. He took pride in his pool, his records, his standards. When he arrived and saw the old man already in the water, swimming his awkward laps, Hayes felt a flash of irritation. The recruits were supposed to be running timed trials today. This was serious business. Navy SEAL candidates, special warfare operators. They didn't have time for some old-timer taking up lane space. Hayes blew his whistle sharp and loud. "Sir, we need this pool cleared. Official training session starting in 5 minutes." The old man kept swimming. Maybe he didn't hear. Hayes blew the whistle again, harder. "Sir, I need you out of the pool, now!" This time the old man stopped. He treaded water for a moment. That serious face turned toward the instructor. Then, without a word, he swam to the edge and pulled himself out. Water ran off his thin frame. You could see every rib, every year of age in the loose skin. He reached for a towel. One of the recruits, a kid named Morrison, couldn't help himself. "Hey Gramps, maybe try the hot tub next time. Leave the real swimming to us," his buddies laughed. Hayes should have shut it down, but he was focused on his clipboard, on his times, on his records. The old man dried off slowly, put his red jacket back on over his wet t-shirt. He sat on the bench and watched. Hayes didn't tell him to leave the pool area entirely. Something about the way the old man sat there, quiet and still, made Hayes decide it wasn't worth the confrontation. Besides, maybe the old guy would learn something, see what real combat swimming looked like. Hayes gathered his 12 recruits. "Gentlemen, today we're running the full tactical course, 50 meters with full gear, underwater obstacle navigation, simulated equipment recovery and return. The base record for this course is 4 minutes and 37 seconds. It stood for 19 years. Your goal is to break 6 minutes. That's the minimum standard for special warfare consideration. Anything over 7 minutes, and you're doing it again until you pass or wash out. Questions?" No questions, just nervous energy. These kids were good swimmers. They had trained for months. But the combat course was brutal. Hayes had seen grown men panic halfway through, claw their way to the surface, forfeit everything. Morrison went first. He was cocky, fast, strong. He hit the water like he owned it. The clock started. He made it through the first 25 meters in good time, dove for the underwater section, navigated the obstacles, but the gear was heavy. The simulated equipment recovery required finding a weighted pack at the bottom and bringing it up. By the time Morrison surfaced for the return lap, he was gasping. His technique fell apart. He thrashed more than swam. When he finally touched the wall, the clock read 6 minutes and 52 seconds. Not bad for a first attempt, but nowhere near the record. Morrison pulled himself out, breathing hard, disappointed. "That record's impossible," he muttered. "Nobody can do that course in 4:37, Hayes corrected him. "Someone did, 19 years ago, and that record stands on this board as a reminder that impossible is just a word." He pointed to the record board mounted on the pool wall. Faded letters, a name, a time. Most of the recruits had seen it but never paid attention. It was ancient history, might as well have been carved in stone. One by one, the other recruits took their turns. Times ranged from 6:20 to 7:40. Good efforts, solid performances, but nothing close to the record. As the morning wore on, the recruits grew frustrated. The old man sat on his bench the entire time, watching with that same sad, serious expression. Not judging, just watching. Like he was remembering something. After the last recruit finished, Hayes gave them a break. They gathered near the equipment lockers, drinking water, complaining about the weight of the gear, the difficulty of the obstacles. Morrison noticed the old man still sitting there. Something about it irritated him. The silent watching. The presence of this relic while they were trying to prove themselves. Morrison walked over, his buddies following. "Hey, old man, you enjoying the show?" The old man looked up slowly. "You're all good swimmers," he said quietly. His voice was rough like gravel. "You'll get there," Morrison laughed. "You think you could do better, at your age?" The old man didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I used to swim here." Morrison grinned. "Yeah? What did you do? Dog paddle in the shallow end?" His friends laughed. The old man's expression didn't change. "I held a record once." The words hung in the air. Morrison's grin faded slightly. "What record?" The old man nodded toward the board. "That one." Morrison turned, looked at the faded record board, then back at the old man. "You're saying you're the guy who set 4 minutes 37 seconds? He said it like it was a joke. The old man didn't respond, just sat there. Hayes had been listening from across the pool deck. He walked over, curious now. "Sir, what's your name?" The old man hesitated. Then quietly, "Thomas Brennan." Hayes felt something click in his memory. He walked to the record board, studied the faded name, then back to the old man. "Thomas Brennan. That's you?" The old man nodded once. Hayes stared. The recruits had gone quiet. Morrison wasn't buying it. "Come on, that's convenient. You just happen to be the guy whose record we're trying to beat. Prove it." The old man looked at him with those sad, serious eyes. "I don't need to prove anything to you, son." But Hayes was already pulling out his phone, accessing the base historical records database. He scrolled, searched, found the entry. His face went pale. Thomas Brennan, Navy SEAL, Class 43, enlisted 1971, multiple deployments, Vietnam. Instructor at Bud's training from 1982 to 1987. Set the base combat pool record in 2005 during a demonstration for... Hayes stopped reading. He looked up at the old man. "You were a SEAL?" The old man's voice was barely above a whisper. "Long time ago." Morrison's cockiness evaporated. "But that record, it's impossible. The gear, the obstacles, 4 minutes 37 seconds. The old man stood slowly. "It wasn't impossible. It was necessary. We trained different back then. Harder. Longer. We didn't have the technology you have now. We had discipline. We had purpose. Every second in that pool could mean the difference between completing a mission and watching your teammates die." He looked at each of the young recruits. "You're good swimmers. You're strong. But you're swimming for a time. We swam for survival." Hayes found his voice. "Sir, I apologize. If I had known who you were, I never would have..." The old man waved it off. "You didn't know. That's fine. I'm just an old man now." But Morrison, trying to recover some dignity, pushed further. "If you are so good, if that record's really yours, then you should be able to show us. Prove you're not just some old guy living off a name from 20 years ago." The other recruits looked uncomfortable. Hayes started to intervene, but the old man held up a hand. He looked at Morrison for a long moment. Then he removed his red jacket again, folded it, placed it on the bench. "I'll swim it once," he said quietly. "Not for you, not to prove anything, but because that record meant something. It represented every SEAL who came before and after, and maybe you need to understand what you're actually chasing." The pool deck went silent. Hayes wanted to stop this. The old man had to be 70 years old. The combat course with full gear could injure trained athletes. But something in the old man's eyes stopped him. This wasn't bravado. This was something else. The old man walked to the equipment area. He selected the tactical vest, the weight belt, the fins. He put them on with practiced movements. movements that came back like muscle memory. His hands didn't shake. Hayes helped him adjust the straps. "Sir, you don't have to do this." The old man looked at him. "Yes, I do." He stood at the edge of the pool. The recruits gathered around. Word had spread. Other personnel from the facility had come to watch. Someone had even called the base commander's office. The old man stared down at the water. For a moment, he looked every bit his 70 years. Thin, old, fragile. Then he dove, and everything changed. The moment he hit the water, it was like watching a different person. His stroke was powerful, efficient, cutting through the water with precision that defied his age. The awkward, old-fashioned technique they had mocked was actually a combat swimming method from an earlier era, designed for endurance and silence. He moved through the first 25 meters faster than any of the recruits had. Hayes stared at the timer, disbelieving. The old man reached the underwater section, dove without hesitation. The obstacles that had slowed the young recruits seemed to pose no challenge. He navigated them with an economy of movement that came from having done it thousands of times. He located the weighted equipment pack, secured it, began the return journey. His lungs must have been burning. His muscles must have been screaming. But his face, visible when he surfaced briefly for air, showed nothing but focus. That same sad, serious expression, like he was back in another time, another pool, swimming for teammates who were no longer alive to swim beside him. The recruits watched in stunned silence. Morrison's face had gone from skeptical to shocked to ashamed. The old man hit the final stretch. His pace hadn't slowed. If anything, he seemed to be moving faster, drawing on reserves that shouldn't exist in a 70-year-old body. He touched the wall. Hayes stared at the timer. 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Not his old record, but 20 years older, and he had beaten every single recruit by nearly 2 minutes. The pool deck erupted. Not in laughter this time, in something else. Respect. Awe. The old man pulled himself out of the water slowly. Now the age showed again. His hands trembled slightly. His breathing was laboured. But he stood. Hayes stepped forward, and without thinking he saluted. A formal, crisp military salute. The old man looked surprised. Then slowly he returned it. One by one, every recruit on that deck came to attention and saluted. Even Morrison, who had tears running down his face. Hayes found his voice. "Sir, I apologise for my disrespect, for not recognising who you are, what you represent." The old man shook his head. "You didn't disrespect me, son. You were doing your job, training these men. That's what matters." He looked at the recruits. "That record I set 19 years ago, I set it for a reason. I was 51 years old then, already retired. But they asked me to come back, to show a new generation what was possible, to remind them that the standards we set aren't arbitrary. They're built on the sacrifices of everyone who came before, every SEAL who didn't come home, every mission that succeeded because someone could swim faster, hold their breath longer, push past what seemed impossible." His voice grew quieter. "I swim here now because it's all I have left of that life. My wife passed 2 years ago. My team is mostly gone, but this pool, this water, it remembers, and so do I." Morrison stepped forward. "Sir, I'm sorry. What I said, how I acted, it was inexcusable." The old man looked at him. "You're young. You're confident. That's good. You'll need that confidence when things get hard. But remember, everyone you meet is carrying something you can't see. Everyone has a story. Respect isn't about age or appearance. It's about recognizing the humanity in everyone, the potential, the history." He picked up his red jacket, pulled it on over his soaking t-shirt. "You'll all break that record someday. Maybe one of you already has it in you. But when you do, remember it's not just a time on a board. It's a promise. A promise to everyone who wore the trident before you. To be better, to push harder, to never forget why we do this." Hayes made a call. Within an hour the base commander arrived. Captain Richardson, a SEAL himself, 20 years younger than Brennan but old enough to know the name. He found the old man sitting on his bench dry now, preparing to leave. "Thomas Brennan, they told me you were here. I should have known. Should have recognised you." Brennan stood slowly. "Captain." Richardson shook his head. "Sir, you don't call me captain. I call you sir." He gestured to the pool facility. "This pool, this base, we owe you more than we can repay. You trained half the instructors we have now. Your techniques are still in our manuals, and you've been coming here for weeks and nobody knew. Nobody recognized you." Brennan shrugged. "I didn't come here for recognition. I came here to swim." Richardson made a decision. "Then swim, but not as a retiree using public hours, as an honoured guest, anytime you want. And we're updating that record board. Your name is going to be properly displayed, your service, your legacy. These young men and women need to know who set that standard. They need to see that excellence doesn't fade, it endures." Brennan's eyes, sad and serious for so long, showed something else. Gratitude. "Thank you, Captain. That means more than you know," Richardson saluted. Brennan returned it. The recruits still gathered saluted as well, and in that moment the old man in the red jacket wasn't just a forgotten relic. He was a reminder, a living connection to a tradition of sacrifice and excellence that transcended time. The next day, a new plaque was mounted beside the record board. It told Thomas Brennan's story, his service, his record, his legacy. And beneath it, a simple line: "Standards are not barriers. They are promises to those who came before and those who will come after." The recruits who had laughed began training differently, harder, with more respect for the water, for the course, for the history they were trying to join. Morrison requested permission to train with Brennan to learn the old techniques. The old man agreed. They swam together twice a week, the young man learning from the old man finding purpose again in teaching. 6 months later, Morrison broke the record, 4 minutes and 34 seconds. When he climbed out of the pool, exhausted and triumphant, the first person he looked for was the old man in the red jacket, sitting on his bench, watching with that same sad, serious expression. But this time, there was something else in those eyes. Pride. Morrison walked over, dripping, breathing hard. "I did it, sir. I broke your record." Brennan nodded slowly. "You did. You earned it. Now you carry it. Protect it. Honour it." Morrison saluted. Brennan returned it. And on the record board, 2 names now stood together, 19 years apart, connected by water, by sacrifice, by a standard that demanded excellence. The old man kept swimming his laps, the young recruits kept training, and the pool remembered them all.